Today I'm making a PeachTree IPA. I did get this out of a magazine. Here are the ingredients: 12 pounds US 2 row, 2 pounds Maris Otter, 1 pound crystal malt 20L, 1 pound crystal malt 40L. This is brew in a bag, so I'm crushing the grains a little finer than you would for a traditional all grain, like 3-tier method. Um, Most of the time I would use the homebrew shop, but now that I'm doing brew in a bag, I just bought a mill so I could do it myself and I wouldn't have to keep changing the settings at Bell's, my local homebrew store. As you can see, hopefully, it is crushed a little finer than you normally would. All the other ones I've crushed like this too. We brought our water up to about 165 degrees to start this. My temperature for mashing by Beersmith is 152. Usually, because I don't have the best insulation, I usually bring it up a little high, then let it go down. In this case, 152 is where we ended up at the end of the 1 hour mash. I also did a mash out at 170 for 10 minutes. Beersmith called for 7 minutes at 168, but I would rather just keep it at 170 for 10 minutes and call it good. Trying to get all the balls and stuff out of there. It's not as critical with a brew in a bag, but still I'd rather get that water in all that grain and instead of having those little cakes floating all around. So after we hit our temperature and after everything is, I guess, stirred up, put the insulation on it that I picked up at the local hardware store, cover it up for an hour, come back, check on it. Looks good. Like I said, I finished my mash at 152, and then to drain it, I'll hang it, squeeze the living daylights out of it, get all that sugar and water out of there as much as I can while I bring the temperature up to boil. Usually doesn't take that long. I think there's probably a little over 7 gallons of water left in there, so that was pretty good. We're almost at the boil, making sure it doesn't go over. So far, I have not had a boil over doing brew in a bag. I think it's because my pot's tall. I do use a mega pot, or it could just be I'm pretty lucky and control the gas enough and stir enough that I can keep that foam from going over. So we have hit the hot break, waiting for it to settle down. This is a 90-minute boil, so we've got 30 minutes before we add our first hop addition. So our first hop addition is at the 60-minute point, and it will be 1 ounce of nougat. Smells pretty good, a lot better than I thought it was actually going to be. I've never used nougat before, but smells pretty good. The second addition of hops is at 5 minutes left in the boil, and that's 1 ounce of Simcoe. At flame out, it's 1 ounce of Amarillo. I did add a yeast nutrient to this with 10 minutes to go. It did sit in the fermenter for 2 weeks. Then I transferred it to the secondary and put 2 ounces of Citra in there. Well, that's about it for this one. Hope you enjoyed this. We will do a 1 week review of this, just like we did the black IPA, just to see what the taste is like after a week. I'm sure it won't be ready, but because this is an IPA, we don't want to let it sit too long. I think a week is not going to be enough, but we'll be able to see how it's coming along by then.